Hey guys, welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Shayna, and in my little corner of the internet, we talk about spooky history of all kinds. If that sounds like something you're interested in, be sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell because I upload every week. Or if podcasts are more your thing, I do have a podcast called Spooky History with Shayna Blake. That's where all the audio of all my videos go, so I will be sure to have a link down in the description for you. Now, I have a serious question for all the people watching.
Okay.
Can you now tell us apart? For the last week, all I have heard is you look so much like your mom.
You got bangs.
I'm just like,
Of course, I've heard of this. It's funny.
maybe it's the face shape and the hair color, because like we don't have the same nose, we don't have the same mouth, same teeth, maybe the same eye shape. Can you say this? But other than that, I mean, we maybe sound alike, talk alike.
Sound alike, yeah.
I was at lunch with my in-laws because it's Sunday when we're recording this. So we went to my in-laws after church, and I haven't seen my nieces since I had a haircut, and they just kept complimenting it. And then Linnell, she's like, Shayna, you look like Momo with your new haircut. It must be true if a kid is saying that.
Yeah, and how old is she?
Yeah, she's 6.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, now I know people are telling me the truth.
Out of the mouths of babes.
So I thought that was kind of funny. We haven't made a video for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while. We've been sick.
I haven't.
I have, me and the boys.
Don't blame me.
We've had trips, birthday parties,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
a lot of crazy stuff going on the weekend. So we finally have time to record a video. And like I was telling you, I got this script together in an hour last night. So hopefully it'll be okay.
I'm sure it'll be fine. You got a little bit under your belt, so it'll be okay.
But once a month, if you've never seen us before, once a month, we have a special episode on my channel, and it's called Mysteries with My Mom. And that's where I bring my mom on here and I read her an unsolved mystery or a true crime to get her reaction. So if you've never met her before, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Shayna's mom, Teresa, also known as Momo.
We've done many videos together. I want to say probably 4 or 5.
Probably about 5 or 6, yeah.
Yeah, I think my subscribers are liking it so far. They seem to be enjoying these videos. Be sure to give us some ideas too on what you would like for me to read to my mom. Some type of unsolved mystery we haven't done yet that you think she might enjoy.
But don't put it on YouTube because then I will see it and I will investigate it.
She's a cheater.
I'm not a cheater.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm inquisitive.
She has no patience and wants to know what it's about so she can prepare herself. She's a
Well,
cheater.
I'm not a cheater.
When
I cannot see your screen. I can't read out any of that. It looks like Chinese or Japanese to me.
No, but if she knows
This is the
what
first
topic,
time I've been close enough to her screen.
yeah, I had her move a little closer because I felt like we were just so far away in
so
our
far
videos.
apart.
But anyways, she'll ask me, so what video are we doing? What's the topic?
Trigger.
And I'm just like, I'm not telling you, because then she'll go home and she'll look it up and then there won't be any reaction because she'll have her own ideas and her own, I don't know, opinions already.
Yeah.
It won't be a surprise. And I want her reaction because that's the best.
She gets that from me.
Well, today's episode's a good one, which I feel like I say that on all of them, but I feel like they have all been pretty good so far. But this one I never heard of until not that long ago. And I know you have heard about it. So today we're going to be talking about the Bridgewater Triangle.
Bridgewater Triangle.
See, she does that to me every time. Like,
Water.
you've heard of it. What's that? Yes,
I'm in my notes. I am not.
Yeah, she's not Googling it.
I'm not Googling it.
It's hard to see.
Yeah, I'm in my notes.
She's got
I
notes.
don't know how to do that.
I'm in my notes.
It ain't working. I'm in my notes. I got to take notes while she's doing this. That way I can go back when she's been reading.
Yeah, she'll sit there and type the whole time that I'm talking. No, okay, so I never heard of it, but remember when we watched that episode on Ghost Brothers? And they had a haunted house over near Bridgewater Triangle, and they started talking about it a little bit. They're like, oh, yeah, it's the infamous Bridgewater Triangle. And I'm like, I never heard of it. And you're like, I think I've heard a little bit of it before, a long time ago. And then you're like, that'd be a good idea for a video. See? Memory's gone.
I don't say the word infamous.
No, it wasn't you. It was the Ghost Brothers saying that.
Oh,
not
okay.
you. Okay. But you made it sound like you've heard of it.
Okay. I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I watched the documentary on Prime to kind of get some of the information before I started looking it up.
Research.
Yeah.
Research.
Research.
She hasn't had her nap today.
I have not. So I watched a documentary on Prime called Bridgewater Triangle. It was pretty good, so I recommend watching it if this kind of thing interests you. You might really enjoy it. But I want to make note that there are some words and names of indigenous tribes that I may mispronounce. This is not on purpose. I'm just not good with pronouncing words.
Unfortunately, she gets that from me as well.
I try and it just doesn't come out right. So go on and get into it. So Bridgewater Triangle is located in the southeastern parts of the state of Massachusetts. The triangle is spread out over 200 square miles. It is the site of many legends and curses such as ghosts, Bigfoot, UFOs, and strange creatures. So it's kind of like Skinwalker Ranch. Mm-hmm. It has a lot of the same things as Skinwalker Ranch, if not more. Now, the main towns that are included in the triangle are Rehoboth, Freetown, and Abington. These include the Hockomock Swamp Wildlife Management Area and the Freetown Fall River State Forest. There is Lauren Coleman, who is a cryptozoologist and folklorist, would come up with the term Bridgewater Triangle in his 1970s book called Mysterious America. There were a few different wars that took place in this area between the indigenous Americans and the European settlers. They were devastating wars. I'm not going to go into great detail. Thousands of indigenous peoples died and hundreds of European soldiers died as well. The natives in the area depended on the swamp as an abundant source of game. They would use this area to find food and even bury their dead. So it is essentially labeled as sacred ground to them. The Wampanoag would both worship and fear this area as the chief deity of death and disease called Haboamuk.
Wow.
Was said to dwell in the swamp. Among many of the Algonquian tribes, Hobamuk was often seen as destructive, evil, and usually in opposition, and was considered the great creator god to these tribes. Now, the meaning of the word Hockomock is called a place where the spirits dwell. So an early English colonists would end up calling it the Devil's Swamp because so much happened there, even that long ago. People wonder if the indigenous Americans put a curse on the land or if the indigenous Americans kind of worshipped the land because the land was already filled with all of this amazing creatures.
Love it, but fear it.
Spirits type thing. So no one really knows how or why all of this kind of got there. There's really no record of any type of curse or anything being put on there by the indigenous Americans. They just know that they worshipped the area because of its magic, I guess you could say, in a way. It wasn't really magic to them. It was kind of life, I guess.
Right.
Because everything was alive, had a spirit type thing. So they kind of already saw it as an amazing place, I guess. So this swamp is known as the largest freshwater swamp in Massachusetts. Hockomock Swamp spreads over 17,000 acres across parts of Easton, Bridgewater, Norton, Raynham, Taunton, and West Bridgewater. In the 17th century, this swamp was where the Wampanoag Indians would hide and then would attack nearby early English settlers. And later, the swamp would be deemed as worthless by the Euro-American settlers. They would drain the portions of it and would turn turned some of that land into farmland. Now, since the colonial times, there have been bizarre reports that would begin to surface in and around the Triangle area. And these reports would include these massive snakes, like as big as stovepipes. Massive. As well as these strange creatures, ghosts, and people would go missing in this area.
The snake got them.
That's why they were so big.
Okay, so snakes and what else?
Snakes, strange creatures like, Bigfoot. There's some other strange creatures we'll talk about. Ghosts, UFOs, all the weird stuff. Now, in more modern times, people will really see Bigfoot. They'll see huge UFOs. They'll see sometimes ominous black helicopters.
CIA.
Yeah, it's Scully and Mulder. Mysterious balls of light hovering over the trees or over the swamp. Sometimes they'll experience poltergeist activity. There'll be cattle mutilations. There's also this like mysterious fog. It's not a big normal fog. Sometimes they'll just see this isolated fog moving in and around the forest or around the swamp. Other times there will be an isolated fire. So sometimes people will see fire on the other side of the swamp, and when they go to investigate it, the fire's gone. But when they go back to where they first were when they first saw the fire, they'll see the fire again.
Oh, wow.
So it's really weird. It's really weird stuff going on over there.
It almost reminds me of this one place with Jack Osborne and Special K, Katrina. They went, I want to say, to Arizona. They were by the desert, and they were seeing these lights and everything, and there's so many questions about the lights and stuff, whether it's balls of gas, set of flame and stuff like that. So I'd never heard of it, but yeah, it's really weird.
Well, it's like the spook light, our area, because we have the spook light in our area. I made a video on that, so I'll try to link it here if I remember. Get up there. Right up there. But yeah, that was weird. Seeing the spook light was really weird. Now, early on, the forest was known to have a race of diminutive humanoid creatures called Puckwudgies.
You want giving you a wedgie?
These are known in Delaware and originate from the Wampanoag folklore. These creatures were troll-like and described to be only 3 to 4 feet tall, with smooth, hairy gray skin and a large nose and ears. They were notorious for causing mischief and mayhem. At first, these creatures were said to be friendly to humans, but would later turn against them. And they blamed them for people falling off cliffs, disappearances, or mysterious deaths.
Gremlins. They're nice at first, and then you feed them after midnight.
First they're sour, then they're sweet. I've been really wanting some Sour Patch Kids recently. There is a popular cliff that has an 80-foot drop into a rock quarry. This is called the Ledge. People will often talk about being compelled to jump off of the cliff. There are reports of people who have jumped to their deaths there. People will go to the ledge and will say that they will get this overwhelming fear of dread when they go near the edge. It's also said to be a hot spot for Satanists and strange cults. And then others will see stuff like UFOs when on this ledge. There is a known spirit, I believe. I think she's called the Lady of the Cliff or the Lady of the Ledge. I'm not sure. It was in the documentary, but people will see her jump off the ledge. And then when they go to the ledge to see, if she's okay, if she made it, there's nothing there. There's no rippled water. You don't see anyone down in the water. Nothing.
So it's an apparition they're seeing.
That's what they think is, it's just some lady went to kill herself and she's just doing it over and over again, it seems like.
Yeah, and so they're basically feeling her
Feeling
dread,
her emotions, probably.
her emotions. They're sensing her. That's sad. And then she's probably as strong as she is because, like you said, there's cults and stuff there. So they probably brought Ouija boards and everything, trying to communicate with her and stuff, and made it more intense.
Now, another paranormal hotspot is called the Profile Rock, and that is located in Freetown. It is a 50-foot high rock that looks like a human face. It's actually kind of cool looking. The Wampanoag people have considered this rock to be sacred. According to the lore, the image of the Wampanoag chief Massasoit, whose son died in that place. And the local legends say that Native American ghost dancers are often seen in warrior dress dancing around the rock, and the ghost of a man is seen sitting on the rock with his arms outstretched. Kind of weird. That'd be a sight to see if you're out on a hike and you just see this stuff going on and then all of a sudden it disappears.
Yeah.
I'd be like,
No, thank you.
like, what just happened? Other things that happen around the rock are strange glowing orbs of light, and people will hear disembodied voices. So, lots of happenings going on around there.
Yeah.
Now, also located in the forest is a 40-ton boulder, and it's called Digton Rock. There's a lot of rock formations in this area. And this rock is one of the biggest mysteries of Massachusetts. It's a slanted, 6-sided boulder that is about 5 feet high and 9.5 feet wide and 11 feet long. For more than 300 years, people have wondered about the lines, the geometric shapes, drawings, and writings that is shown on the rock, and also wonder who created them. Several people believe that it was made by the local Native Americans or Vikings or even Phoenicians. I haven't really heard of them yet, which is an ancient Mediterranean civilization, but their identity has never been determined. So that's kind of interesting. Now, the forest is pretty known as the site of many cult activities, which is said to include animal sacrifice and ritualistic murders committed by Satanists. There have been people that have admitted to doing these rituals, so it's, not just hearsay. Now, with the forest being so dense, it makes it a perfect spot for killers to leave their victims in, and they aren't found for months or even years later. But the main focus of this area is all the weird things that are spotted. There was a law enforcement officer who claimed to have seen a giant black pterodactyl-like creature with a wingspan of 8 to 12 feet. So that's also going on.
Wow.
Yeah, they see these massive birds in this area for some reason. Kind of weird.
Yeah.
They say that this large creature is a mythical thunderbird that is prominent in the local Native American mythology. Now, there have also been these vicious red-eyed dogs that have been seen, as well as the big birds and giant snakes. These dogs make me think of those dogs at Skinwalker Ranch because they say that they are huge.
Werewolf type.
Yeah, there was some story that someone witnessed one of these dogs killing 2 horses. Like this dog was just so big, it was able to take down 2 big horses like that. So, not something I would want to run into.
No.
Here, puppy.
Not.
Now, there is another rock called Anawan Rock, and it's named after Chief Anawan, and he surrendered here to the colonists, and legend says that the very angry spirits of Indian warriors continue to haunt the area, starting spectral fires and ghost dancing.
Anawan Rock, I was kind of wondering if grounds or the spirits were not happy that the chief gave in to the Europeans, and so every once in a while you see these spectral fires and dancing. Mm-hmm.
Maybe, yeah.
Like a war dance. I just recently heard of elemental spirits, and I was like, well, that makes sense, because that's basically what the Indians were raised around, was the element. Everything is alive. Just watch Pocahontas.
Need to paint with all the colors of the wind.
Not just alive, everything has a spirit specifically.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, that's all the stuff I have on the area. Next, I was going to go into stories of the witnesses because I had a few of those.
Is this the place that had like a snake room in it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't hear anything about a snake room.
That's kind of where there was another place that was
Like a cave full of snakes?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Because a lot of it was torn down. A lot of it's fallen down and everything, but I know there was a sacrificial room and there was a snake room. So I'm not sure if this is the same place, but I know it's a very large territory. I just didn't remember it being called a Bridgewater Triangle, that it was in Massachusetts. It might be a different place I'm thinking of.
I didn't hear anything about a snake room. All I heard was there are big snakes.
Big snakes.
I don't know where they would hide.
Well,
I mean, I
usually
get
around
it's a dense forest and it's kind of big, but
It's a swamp of 17,000 acres, and the Europeans drained part of it, but
yeah, but the
snakes-
swamp, I think that they said the swamp wasn't even that deep. I think they said it was maybe 8 to 10 feet deep.
Yeah, but these are snakes that are out in the wild, and they're going to eat anything from a rat to a rabbit. I mean, a snake that big.
No, I don't know. It's just a lot of weird stuff going on over
and
there.
Sometimes their jaws detach, so they can take something in more massive.
Okay, so now we're going to get into the stories of the witnesses. I think I only have like 3, but the last one is a long testimony of someone.
Stand up and witness.
Now, in this area, there were many one-room schoolhouses. Well, this lady was walking by one and looked in one of the windows, and she saw a lady, a teacher, in old school clothing teaching a classroom full of students. So she thought, oh, cool, they're doing a reenactment, you know? Because it was so real. So she went to the door to go inside and it was locked. So she knocked and waited for someone to open it. Nobody came to open it. So she goes back to the window and saw the same teacher and students. And the teacher looked at her with a puzzling look. And then the lady watched as they all faded away.
Wow, it's almost like they're in a different dimension.
Isn't that weird?
For all the students to be there too. I mean,
That was weird.
that is weird. Ew, that's creepy.
When I heard that, I was like,
Who in their right mind would want to be in school forever? I mean, come on. Something happened to these people that they're all still in the classroom? That, I mean, the
I don't
church
know,
is
but the
still there,
teacher
but-
looked at the lady like she could see her.
Yeah.
And just kind of
And
gave her
ignored
this
her.
weird look, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then they all just kind of disappeared.
Ooh, I kind of think of like a thin veil where you can see another dimension or something. and,
weird.
like you're seeing back in time of what happened.
Yeah, that's weird.
See a teacher and all the students. I'd be out
Apparently, a lot of stuff like that happens. Now, in the documentary, there were 2 men. I can't remember. I know they were like well-respected men. I think one of them was in like the Navy or some branch of the military, and then the other guy was I can't remember what he was. They were walking one night within the triangle, and they looked up and saw this light. It was kind of like a flashlight, like a huge light. It was attached to this huge flying ship that was in the shape of a baseball field, but was approximately the size of 2 football fields.
Wow.
And they said it seemed like it was so close that they could have thrown a rock at it. But eventually it was going slow over the area, and it just had this one light on the front of it. There was no other lights. It was just black. I mean, it just flew off. They're like, there's no known ship that we are aware of that looks like that.
Right, one light.
Many people were reporting seeing it that night. Thought that was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, this last one really freaked me out.
Something freaks you out?
It really
Like
freaked
everything-
me out.
Everything that you watch that I'm like, ew, I can't watch that.
So
What is it? I'm ready.
So I'm just going to be reading what the guy's saying. It's just one big quote.
Okay.
Okay, it's a few pages long.
Okay.
So if we need to stop and talk, that's fine.
Okay.
So his name is Bill Russo. Okay, he lives in the Bridgewater Triangle area. And here's what he goes to say. Now, before I give you the details and let you decide for yourself if I really saw a thing that cryptozoologists called a Puckwudgie, let me set the scene. I lived in a ranch home in a quiet residential neighborhood in the southeastern Massachusetts town of Raynham. My house was perhaps 600 yards from a large area of thick woodlands surrounding a cluster of swamps and natural springs. For 6 years, I was on the 3 to midnight shift at the nearby ironworks. After work, it was my nightly custom to take my dog, Samantha, for a walk.
Everybody loves Samantha. Samantha's a witch. You've noticed that in Frozen 2? Olaf.
Samantha? I don't even
know it's Samantha. Where do you think he got it from? She's in the forest. She's a witch. Go ahead.
Oh, that's funny. Sammy is what he called her.
So did her husband.
Go
ahead.
Was an 80-pound Rottweiler and Shepherd mix. So let the record show that Sam was fearless. There's no doubt of that. One time we were at the zoo, and a shaggy old bison took a dislike to me for no reason and charged at me. Hitting the chain link enclosure at full speed, the beast left a perfect 3D molding of his head in that fence. There would not have been much left of me if that iron barrier wasn't there. Sam charged the fence trying to get at that bison. Biting at the links of the chain and barking wildly, she spooked the 1-ton animal and got it to back up.
Fearless dog.
When my 2 teenage sons would occasionally have a disagreement that was threatening to get violent, Sam would jump off the couch where she had been resting and get right in between the pair. She'd sort them out with about 5 seconds worth of barking and growls. They'd quiet down and go their separate ways.
Treating them like pups.
She never bit them, but she did put the fear of dog in them. There's no doubt that Sam was as brave as they come. And that's how I know that the Littlefoot thing was very dangerous. We usually stayed on the sidewalks during our stroll, and that night Sam wanted to head for the woods. At a place called the High Tees, we picked our way through the darkness until we came to a cross street. The High Tees is a name given by the neighborhood to a swath of land about 50 feet high that runs all the way from Boston to Providence. It plays host to high-tension electrical transmission wires. 50-foot pines border the swatch and thick brush pads in the middle. All manner of wildlife, from foxes to bears, use this green strip to avoid the dangers of the paved roads. As we would learn that night, other creatures, almost unknown to the world, also traverse the High Tees. The area is ancient and steeped in the history of the land. The cross street that we came to was near the site of an ancient Leonard ironworks, just the third one built in the New World. It was likely the most successful ever, in operation for over 200 years from 1656 until 1876. The building is long gone, but the sluice that carried the water to power the blast furnace is still there. Water from the same source, the Hackamuck Swamp, has flowed uninterrupted through the channel since the time of Massasoit, the chief of the Wampanoag tribe. Now, Rainham in the 1980s and 90s was a quiet little town of hardworking people. During our walks, we almost never saw lights and windows. Virtually the entire community was asleep long before we took our first step. Johnny Carson's Nielsen ratings were 0. Not once in a half dozen years did we ever meet another person out for a walk. Very rarely would a car be on the roadways. Back then, the police department didn't even have a night shift. If there were any calls, the department of the nearby city of Taunton would answer the phone for Rainham, but usually there were no calls. When we got to the cross street, we began walking along the sidewalk towards home. About 500 feet from my front door, Sam started pulling on her leash. Whimpering and shaking, she refused to go further. He heard what it was saying before he saw the creature. It would say, "Kier, Kier, E want chu. Kier, 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 E want chu. Chu, E want chu." Just let me.
Wants to chew the dog.
A high-pitched voice floated through the darkness, sounding like a pleading child. Kier, Kier, Kier. Its pitch intensifying like a siren of a speeding fire truck. I couldn't make out the words. It might be a toddler who was just learning to speak, I thought. A moment later, I noticed something moving in the shadows, walking slowly into the center of the circle of a light cast by a street lamp. It stopped and lifted its hairy hand or paw. Palm inward, its scooped hand began moving. It was beckoning me to come forward. Kier, chew, chew, e want chew.
Me want you. We want to chew you.
Sam tried to pull me away. Now she was rattling so badly I was afraid she would break her leg joints. Her head down, near tears, she would not look at the strange beast that was summoning me. It must be a kid. He wandered out into the night. I have to help him. He would go to say, "Are you okay? Do you need help?" Do you know where your house is? E want you. Chew. Chew. E want you. No response. It just kept whining those strange sounds like kind of words, but words I did not understand. I looked closer. It was no kid. About 3 or 4 feet tall. It was covered in fur and had kind of a chipmunky face. A fairy-like, expansive pot belly gave it a look of old age. I was 20 feet away from it, not quite at the edge of the circle of the light on the pavement. I took another step closer. Sam's discomfort continued to mount as the creature's wail would grow louder. When I was certain that the thing was not human, I also became certain that I did not want to get any near to it than I was. When I saw how frightened Samantha was, I became as scared as she. We backed away from it and made a huge circle around it as we headed for our home as fast as we could. I sat up.
Back to it?
Yeah, he went around it because he was close to his house.
Yeah.
So he went around it because it didn't move. It stayed in that light. Mm-hmm. And then they bolted to the house and it didn't follow him. So he told his wife what he saw. I sat up all night thinking about the creature. I regretted not being brave enough to walk up to it. The little guy never actually threatened me. If he had just tried to answer me, I think I would have gotten closer. But it just kept pleading, "Kier, Kier." I said the words aloud over and over again. Gradually, I figured it out. It was talking to me in a kind of English. And here's what I think what it was saying. Kier means come here. E want you means we want you. Is that not messed up?
We want you.
We want you.
It almost sounds like an Indian language or something, though, too. I mean, it does. It almost sounds like it.
But he would go to say, I am sure of it, the hairy little thing was saying, come here, we want you. And he would go on to say, once he got in the middle of the circle of light, he never made another move towards me. He wanted me to see him clearly so that I would not be frightened. I convinced myself that Littlefoot did not mean to harm me. But then I started hearing stories about the Bridgewater Triangle. There were eerie lights that would appear from nowhere, stories of snakes as large as stovepipes, and giant thunderbirds who could shape into human form. There were killings. Ghosts were sighted with regularity. UFOs were seen and documented by 2 respected television journalists. Bigfoot was seen, and yes, Littlefoot was spotted too. Only they didn't call him Littlefoot. Puckwudgie is perhaps the name for what I saw. If it was a Puckwudgie, I was lucky that I did not approach any nearer, because few people are said to survive a close encounter with a Puckwudgie. They trace back to the 1600s and were friendly to the Native American people. A falling out made them an enemy of both the Native Americans and the European settlers. Puckwudgies are said to have many powers, but they are not able to pursue a victim. They have to lure the person to them. If they do not kill the individual right away, they will leave a curse upon the person that can make them wish they had been killed.
Wow.
Is that not? That freaked me out.
No, thank you.
That freaked me out. When he was explaining that, because he was in the documentary. He was on the documentary and he was saying pretty much exactly that. I got that from an internet site. They probably just got it word for word for what he said off the documentary. But
how long did he live there before this all happened?
I don't know. He didn't say. He's like, I never told anyone about it. And he said then 20 years passed and he'd heard all the stories. And he's like, I'm getting older. Might as well tell people what I saw. You know? I couldn't have imagined being in that situation. It sounds creepy.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a dog that's scared out of its wits.
The dog didn't even want to look at it.
Yeah, dog didn't want to look at it, so it knew something was up.
Something had to have been evil. Pure evil.
Why did Samantha want to go in the woods that night as well? I wonder if they were trying to figure out what she was and stuff, and then it's like, here, we'll get him on
What it was.
It says, we want you. Like they wandered into their territory, and then they came out to try to see, hey, come over here. You can't tell me things like that don't sit there and watch the city. They don't watch people in the
How do you
towns
think-
from the forest.
I mean, if it is real, which to me, you know, I'm pretty skeptical, especially stuff like that. If it was real, then it would have had to have learned, like he was saying, a form of English, which they would have been around for a long time, you know, so they could have learned something just by hearing it, figuring out what they were saying. But to me, when I hear something like that, I'm always like, that's got to be some sort of evil spirit. But that's just me. That's just, I'm skeptical with animals living out there that are Littlefoot fairy creatures.
Well,
Still creepy.
it is very creepy, but you know, there was that video there at Skinwalker Ranch, someone just driving by and they saw something that was not human, by the way its back legs were and stuff like that. It was going up the side of the mountain. It was on Fright Night with the Ghost Hunters and Jack Osborne. But I was shocked to see something like that. So, I mean, these things, if they were supposedly friends with the Indians, I would say that they communicated with those Indians. And if anyone still knows that language, I mean, that sounds like Indian language to me. And then they had a falling out with the Indians and they had a falling out with the Europeans, basically just secluded themselves.
I was doing the Beast of Bray Road episode and someone commented about, because I said something about, I feel that the Beast of Bray Road is similar to Bigfoot. I feel that, you know, it's a spiritual type thing that was either summoned by the Native Americans or summoned by some other nationality group. I really don't know. And it's just kind of here now. But he made a comment of maybe it from another dimension comes in and out of our dimension. Which also makes me think of Stranger Things.
Yes.
The upside down. But I don't really know if any of that's true. It's so interesting to read up and hear the theories and stuff. But some of that stuff's just really out there for me. What these people go through is so scary. Like I would be a wimp in that situation. I would just run, scream, and go banging on people's doors. Let me in! Call the cops! I'd be freaking out.
I'd be on fire and everybody'd come out.
Oh my word. Yeah, I'm a wuss. I'm a big wuss. I don't have enough stuff on it to make a video, but I think I told you about it. I was at work the other day and I heard the back door open, but no one was there. And I was on the phone. I heard the back door open, expecting my boss and his son to walk through. The back door never closed.
This is the second time you've heard it in last 2-3 months?
This is the third time I've heard it. Third or fourth time I've heard it since I've been working there. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, I know it because it's loud.
Well, it
You've
happened
heard
just
that
recently.
back door.
Yeah, but it happened just recently.
Yeah,
like
it was
a
a
month or
few
so
months ago. It was right before I made that video. I told my coworker about it, and she's like, "You want your office to be haunted so badly?" I said, "No, no, I don't. I'll talk about this stuff all day, every day, but I do not want to be living in it."
Well, I mean, it's one of those buildings that you park in the back. You
park in the back.
I mean, it could be something residual as well. So what was
And
there
that's what
before
that's what I kind of
there?
think it is, because the things that are happening are common sounds that you would hear in an office. I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing anyone. I'm hearing papers shuffling. I'm hearing doors open and close.
Well, they're probably trying to figure out where all this paperwork came from, and why has it not got their company name logo on it?
And it's always when I'm by myself. Never happens when David's there.
It's because he leaves the door open.
He does. Usually in the summer he does. But he did tell me after I made that video of, I think my office is haunted, and he watched it. He laughed at a few things. He was like, okay. And then he's like, I got something to tell you. And I'm like, what? Like, you're gonna tell me something outrageous, you know? He's like, that's why sometimes we lock that door back there. Back when his wife worked with him, he said they would always hear that back door open and shut and would freak out that someone was coming in. So he's like, that's why I always have you lock the door, because we always heard that thinking someone was coming in. So I'm like, oh, well, you should have told me that before I made the video. I'm over here thinking I'm crazy, but in reality, you've been experiencing this stuff for 20 years.
Yeah.
Thanks for not telling me.
Yeah, I mean, your town was founded in the 1800s, I believe.
It's
so
super old town. I mean, those buildings look like the Wild West type buildings. Yeah, super old town. All the businesses are connected on the main street. That's all I got. What do you think so far? You like the video?
Yeah.
The information?
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, right?
It is. Yes, it is. I don't remember ever hearing this.
Crazy stuff.
Sorry, I haven't had my nap either.
We're both tired. It's 3:38. I don't know. Cameron hasn't even napped yet, so. Well, that's going to be it for us today. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit a like, hit that subscribe and notification bell so you don't miss any of my weekly uploads.
Share.
Yeah, share. Or if you're listening on my podcast, be sure to leave me a review if you can. Either way, we're just happy you guys are here watching and listening. Hope you all have a very blessed week, and we will see you later.
Bye.
Okay, you got your giggles out?
I hope so. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
It's like the only time you want to hear me. Sorry.
They told us we were staying for dinner and made tacos.
Nick, stop that.
Stop. Stop acknowledging his presence.
So you believe he's here?
No, I quit acknowledging his presence. I think Cameron's awake. I hear him playing with his horse, dragging it across the floor.
Sure. I'm busy typing satanic sacrifices. Let's drink to that. Not. And pose. Okay.